Hey guys, this year marks a pretty special milestone for me. It's been 10 years since the Blue album was released, and I can't believe a decade's gone by already. Some of the favorite songs I wrote are on this album. Some of the songs that have defined my life and career are on this album. And I mean, my favorite song is on this album. And it's kind of funny that we did the Scandinavian German version and the international version. I'll tell you a little more about why that happened. But sitting with these vinyls is pretty impressive. I mean, to me, it's not just an anniversary of an album. It's a pretty groundbreaking album from my perspective. It's the album that launched my international career. Songs like Mama Said, 7 Years. And in a lot of ways, it's a prophetic album. I mean, Take the World by Storm was written before I toured the world. Mama Said, that talks about getting a deal in Hollywood before we had a deal in Hollywood. 7 Years, that talks about having children before I had any kids. Yeah, so in many ways, it's been a journey. There was the moment in Raphael Saadiq's B studio in Los Angeles when we were listening to the collection of songs we were going to put on the album, where we as a team agreed that this is going to be a really, really good album. Let me call it a great album. Sometimes good is the enemy of great, and we really had the feeling that this was a unique album in a certain way. And then you could say the second realization came when we surprise released the album in just Scandinavia, Germany, Switzerland, Austria. And we released it without an actual single, and then 7 Years just took off, especially in Sweden, where it beat several different Spotify records for most streams in a day, and it kind of kept beating itself. And 7 Years went into the top 50 worldwide on Spotify just through streams in Scandinavia and the German-speaking territories. So Warner Brothers, that basically had the rest of the world, had to release the song, because if you were sitting in the US or the Philippines, you could just see this song called 7 Years in the global top 50, but you couldn't actually press it and listen to it. And it was a pretty crazy moment for us. I mean, there are several. In a lot of ways, I'd say Happy Home was like a groundbreaking song for me, songwriting-wise, in the way I was expressing my inner life, my inner feelings, hopes, dreams, and fears. I don't believe I could have written 7 Years without first having written Happy Home. And I mean, it's kind of funny that I remember making these lyric sheets where you can read every single lyric because of Happy Home. I write a lot of songs, will anybody ever read them? Because to me, sometimes when you read a lyric, you might feel it or understand it differently than when you listen to it. But you could say 7 Years is my favorite song in the world. Every time I'm asked that question in an interview, what's your favorite song? I mean, there are all these rap songs and folk songs and pop songs and rock songs, but I kind of wrote my favorite song. Like, that song changed my life. That song allowed me and the boys to travel around the world, and allowed Stefan and Rizzy and Pilo to write songs and produce music for massive, huge artists. So at the end of the day, 7 Years is like the pinnacle song. And it's always funny because, you know, people ask, oh, do you get tired of singing that song? I'm like, no. I love singing that song every single time. Like, the first half of the song was the life I'd lived until I was 25, and the second half of the song was the life I was dreaming of living. And a lot of it came to pass, which is pretty unique. It's like it was a prophetic song in a lot of ways. So some of the songs were written actually in these rooms. 7 Years is written right out there in the kitchen by a piano that had so many drinks spilled in it that several of the keys stuck. The verses and the bridge to Mama Said was written in another room in here that Henadub sits in. And the funny thing is, 7 Years was recorded in that room right in there on a $500 mic, a one-take recording, and we could never beat it again. I tried for like 2-3 days in a row with a magnificent microphone, vocal chain, all the A-game equipment, and I just couldn't beat that one take on a cheap mic. And it just goes to show that the vibe will beat the equipment most days, or on any given day. If the vibe is right, you don't need all the fancy stuff. A lot of it was recorded in Beechwood Canyon. A cool dude called Gabe had this little garage studio where we recorded Funeral, What Happened to Perfect, and then we rented Raphael Sadiq's B studio in his Blakesley compound, and we wrote Take the World by Storm and You're Not There and a lot of the songs there. So it's kind of been written and recorded in these 3 different locations, right here in our Copenhagen studio, and then in Beechwood Canyon, and in North Hollywood at Raphael Sadiq's spot. I don't think I ever consciously thought of a theme for the Blue album. I mean, a lot of the reflection came because I'd lost my father a few years before I started writing these songs. And then, I mean, there's still the Strip No More stuff. Like, there's still the fun, frivolous, let's just do something that feels good and which will perform well on a stage. At the end of the day, Lukas Graham is a live band. It's a live act, and it should be enjoyed live. I mean, I love the records, but nothing beats a good live performance. So I think it was always this idea of creating something that was better than anything I'd done before, but at the same time making stuff that was going to be fun to perform, and also write something that I could feel enough to make other people feel it too. And we called the album the Blue Album because, I mean, Lukas Graham, the first album, had this cover, but in the original colors that you can almost see here if you zoom in. It's a painting in a cafe where I used to go with my mom and dad when we were kids. I thought it was fancy dinner, and then I grew up and realized it was just a French-style bistro cafe. And I remember when Kate Lebrel asked me, so what are we going to call the album? I was like, Lukas Graham? Like, I didn't want one of the songs to be the title track to the album. And she was like, yeah, but the first album you released in Denmark is called Lukas Graham. We can't do that again. I said, call it the Blue Album. There's songs about me being blue. It was such a simple sentence, and it stuck. I guess basically, You're Not There and Funeral and like Don't You Worry About Me got to decide the blue. I was pretty damn blue. The biggest challenge making the Blue Album was that we were out of our comfort zone in very deep water, signed to massive Warner Chappell publishing house, signed to massive Warner Records in LA, and I mean, when we were releasing or writing music in Copenhagen and in Europe, there was never really any interference from the record label, because we were kind of doing our thing our way and it was working. Like when we decided to put stuff on YouTube and the record label was complaining in Copenhagen, and we were like, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot the password to my Google account, I can't take it down. Like, and it was, the tables just turned a little bit when we were in the US with such a big machine behind us. And you had these people saying, oh, we don't have the single, we don't have the big hit. And I was a little overwhelmed. We had, I don't know, like 50 plus of these like speed dating songwriting sessions, and a lot of the time I didn't really feel comfortable in those rooms, so I'd walk out, I'd leave them. And I remember being called and being told, hey, if you keep walking out of these songwriting sessions with these writers that we've worked really hard to hook you up with, like you're gonna have to pack your bags and go home. And I remember my reply was like, no, we'll just pay for the studio time. Like, and I remember that's what we did. Me and my managers, Lazzy and Casper, we pooled our own money into it. When the record label didn't want to rent some expensive equipment that the guys wanted to play with, we just rented it ourselves. Like, I think we ended up spending in excess of $500,000 American dollars of our own money that we never got refunded by the label, which was, it's still a lot of money, but it was a hell of a lot of money 11 years ago in 2014. And it was just this idea that we knew that what we were doing was right. We knew that the songs we had were going to work. And I'm really, really proud of the whole team for believing in that dream and for not folding and not caving. But the biggest challenge was for sure trying to navigate this major label stuff. Like, you're on the same label as some of the biggest artists in the world. And we're still just a small fish. I mean, I'm just a dude from Copenhagen who likes to write songs and who likes to sing them. And in a certain way, I think post the Blue Album, the pressure that album created, I kind of lost a little bit of my trust in my own gut feeling in a certain way. Which is weird because everything went so well. But it was definitely a process that pushed us to the limit and broke certain things in us as a team and as people, because it's a heavy weight when these massive labels start telling you what to do and how to do it. And 2016 was 90 plus flights and driving around in buses and playing shows and TV shows and radio shows and promo shows. And like, not to forget that my oldest daughter was born in 2016, 25th of September 2016, a little under a year after 7 years had been released worldwide. And when she was 5 weeks old, we went on a 7-month tour of the US and Europe with my wife and little Viola. And I don't think I ever, and at least not at the time, I didn't credit my wife with how cool and how awesome she was in doing that and going on the tour rather than staying at home and taking care of the baby and herself. So it was intense in a lot of ways and pushed a lot of boundaries. I mean, let's bring out the lyric sheet. Like, just the first line of Mama said, like, remember asking both my mom and dad why we never traveled to exotic lands. We only ever really visit friends, nothing to tell when the summer ends. Like, we used to go back home to Ireland, where my dad's from, and stay with my grandparents and my aunts and uncles. We took the train to Austria and stayed with his friends down the south of Austria. Like, I don't remember any hotel rooms or like holidays. It was always visiting people, which was amazing. But I mean, I've been to so many exotic locations since. Like in Happy Home, what will I say when my kids ask me who my daddy was? I thought about it for a while and I'm at a loss. It's like, because my kids are old enough now to ask about it, and my middle, like Billy, the middle one, she's like, Dad, your dad's dead. And it's like, yeah, what's your point? Like, it's pretty weird being a dad without having a dad. And I mean, it kind of goes for a lot of these songs, like Take the World by Storm. I've always dreamt of travel. Fuck, we've traveled. Sometimes you gotta build your own roads. Like, damn, we've built some roads. Like, there's just so much of this that was meant as it was just a song, and now it's like my life. I saw my life come crashing down. I crawled, I walked, I'm flying now. I found my strength on my knees. Yeah, Don't You Worry About Me, the happy song about my father being dead. The song about, like, if you have a dream and you need to do something, you gotta go do it. Like, my dad died on the 8th of September, and on the 20th we were back in Germany playing the most important show of our life. It's that a concert that's still being broadcast on TV once in a while because it was such an intense show. A song like You're Not There. I thought that song would become easier to sing the older I got, and it's just becoming harder because now I have children. Mama Said is like a split situation. One of my friends who filmed the first 2 YouTube videos we put up in 2011, he was listening to a bunch of the demos and was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff about your dead father here. And I was like, what's your point? He's like, your mom's still here. She goes to the shows, she gives you pointers, and she's like critiquing you on your performance, your vocal performance. And then one day on the way home from a show in the north of Jutland, I decided to drive home with a couple of the guys, and suddenly we're in this blizzard and smoking weed out the window of the car, and I start writing this song, just the chorus. Mama said that it was okay. Mama said that it was quite alright. I'm not even sure I had the melody there, or it was just the words. I remember I came home to the studio a few weeks later and I was singing it to the guys. It's like I couldn't figure out, where does this verse go? What do I say? And I was in the, now it's Hennedub's room, I was in there with Reezy and he was playing the piano, and we used to have a DJ deck that we could move out when we had big parties out here. It was a different time. We had smoke cannons and like fucking lights and shit. And I was standing with the book on the DJ deck, and like Rizzy was commenting how it kind of looked like I was a preacher at an altar. I just remember now. And then I just started writing those verses like, remember asking both my mom and dad? And he was just playing those fucking flares. And the song just became what it was. And I remember Stefan came in and heard it, and then we wrote the bridge, and it's like, I mean, I have all these lyrics, you know, I have all the books, handwritten lyrics. And it was just one of those songs where we immediately agreed that we needed kids to sing it with me, because this song is written from that perspective of a child having dreams that are too big to fit the reality the child is living in. And I'm very grateful that I grew up in a place like Christiania where we were allowed to dream big and we were allowed to be a little crazy. There wasn't too much talk about fitting in, because none of us did. We still don't. Yeah, I love that song. Funeral is one of my favorite songs. Like, if we strip away what a song like 7 Years has done for me career-wise, I think Funeral is one of my all-time favorites. And also one of my favorites to perform live. I remember we wrote and recorded it right then and there. Cool songwriter called Ross Golan, Stefan, Reezy, me. And it's written as my funeral, but from the perspective of the funeral I saw my dad have. I love the second verse because it's like, you're all on my tab, bartenders, pour out the whiskeys on me, and don't be so sad, cause I live this good. And also it's not a sad song, like, we're all closer, now it's over, but it doesn't mean it's closure. Like, I see you and I love you, I'll be watching out above you. And when I see the lyrics written down, it's such a short song. There's verse 1, verse 2, and there's a chorus, and then the chorus just goes on forever at the end. And it's a crazy song to perform live if you listen to it right before you go on stage, because on the album it doesn't have any instruments. It has a piano and an organ. And Mr. Brody Brown, the executive producer on the album, just plays the organ like a maniac. And then we play it live, and there's drums and there's bass, and now there's also a guitar on it. And the few times we've done it with a full gospel choir, like, just brings the whole thing to another level. And I love that about a lot of the songs that I've written, is that the album, like, it's like you have several different ways they sound. You have the album version and you have the live version. Sometimes you make something specific for a TV show or a little YouTube live edit, like a little acoustic something. And it's always been the ambition from my point of view, and very rarely do I not succeed. One of the ambitions has always been to be able to perform the song with as little instrumentation as possible. Later on in the journey, I've let go of that mantra a little bit, and I always tend to regret it. I always tend to regret moving in a more electronic direction. At least, I mean, it can go as electronic-y, techno-y as we want it to, as long as we can play it with just a guitar or just a piano. That's my favorite type of song. Actually, something I'd like to highlight. If you take Criminal Mind Part 2 or A Happy Home, A lot of my songs back then were written as rap before there was a melody to it. I grew up on a lot of rap music. Rap music and folk music is kind of the main stuff that I consumed as a kid. Like, I reminisce to back then when it was you and I, smoking big fat blunts, driving movie night. They tried to get you down, but you refused to die. They tried to give you angel wings, but you refused to fly. You'd rather stay in hell and take your time in jail. They're only punishing a soul that you will never sell. We both know that we owe nothing to each other, but can you blame me for loving and missing my brother? Now the same with Happy Home, right? Magazines are writing stuff, but I don't ever read them. Some of the folks I used to know would see and start believing that I would pass them by on streets and never reach to greet them. I still remember folks, even though I rarely meet them. I think the first line is like, Mama called about the paper, turns out they wrote about me. Now my broken heart's the only thing that's broke about me. I need to write more lyrics with no melody, and then turn it into song, just like I did back then. It's just poetry, man. Technically speaking, I'm just a lyricist that likes to sing. So the reason there's a difference between the two covers is that this is the European version, and there was an issue with nudity in the US version and in several other territories in Southeast Asia. And I really wanted The Lady with the Bottles, is the name of the original painting, to be the album cover. And Norman Wonderly, our Wonderly creative at Warner, came up with this idea that the painting is in a museum and a kid is looking at it. I think a lot of the thoughts about this is, this could be me. Should have had some more curly hair though. I would have had that for sure. But the idea was a lot of the explicit content on the album, like the lyrical content and the stuff I'm talking about, like Drunk in the Morning, Strip No More, Better Than Yourself. I actually really like it. I also like how we put in a little more vibe pictures on the back. Funny story about this, the 7 Years cover. That boy is not me, but that is my father. And this boy here, his name is Gabriel, and he was my dad's very good friend's son. And they're lying on the cliffs of Moher on the Irish west coast. But this picture was actually taken a few years before I was born. Here's my dad again, together with Preben, our old neighbor. Just refurbished a beautiful antique stove. This is little Luke with cousin Sally. Here we have the band. Reezy, Lucas, Magnus, Mark sitting in the cafe where the picture, The Lady with the Bottles, is. Me and Magnus at a concert. And then open up and voila, you get to see the whole shebang. I mean, this is why I like vinyls. You get room for artwork. This is taken during the recording of our very first Danish release album. So yeah, 2 different album covers. We got nominated for 3 Grammys, which is insane.
That is insane.
Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Live Pop Group Performance. I wish I could go back in time and actually appreciate that. I don't believe I was in a position mentally, physically, spiritually to appreciate that moment in time, because we had a newborn baby, we were touring, we were traveling, like it was just so much. I believe I was on a truck stop in Ohio, changing a diaper, when I get told that we've got 3 Grammy nominations. And I remember in the restaurant in Philadelphia having this celebratory dinner and not really understanding it. And probably also because we are from Denmark, not understanding how huge it was. I mean, but the song has a diamond acclaim in the United States. Like, it's more than 10 times platinum. Like, that's insane. I sometimes have to pinch myself really hard, because I remember just dreaming of playing Little Vega, which is 400 people. Like, when we knew we were going to do that, and it sold out, I was like, woo! Then we did Big Vega, like 3 months later, 1,480, twice, like, woo! Like, and then you got a diamond record and 2 billion streams on a song. It's like, the numbers are sometimes too big to fathom. Yeah. A lot of meanings have changed. But it's also crazy to sometimes see these really, really young people at the front of the stage that either weren't born when some of these songs were released or were too young to listen to it and get it. And I'm still wondering, are they even old enough now to fathom like the depth of some of the meaning? But just the fact that I released an album 10 years ago that is touching people 20 years younger than me, like, that's an intense feeling when I can see like whole families of grandparents and parents and kids, and like, and you can see them like enjoying the music together, because that's what I remember with my family.